No one in the family ever said it out loud, but I knew they all thought she was overly enthusiastic. I used a different word: invasive. Every Thanksgiving turned into her stage, the dining table decorated like a royal wedding, invitations printed with her name larger than the host's, and new traditions no one found enjoyable. Every time, my sister and I just sat silently, forcing a crooked smile whenever she said, "Let mom handle everything. You kids just need to show up." She wasn't my mom. My stepmother, Colleen, is 52 and used to run a small event planning company in Idaho, long defunct. My dad, David, remarried her 12 years ago when I had just turned 18. At first, I thought she just wanted to create a sense of family, but over time I realized she couldn't stand being left out of anything remotely personal or emotional, especially events where her name wasn't on the banner. I'm 30, a civil engineer, currently living in Spokane with my fiancée, Haley, 27, an ER nurse. We've been engaged for almost 2 years, preparing for our wedding this July. It could have been simple if Colleen hadn't inserted herself into every detail. As soon as the wedding news got out, she started flooding my inbox with emails. Subject lines like, "Mom's wedding theme ideas," or "Perfect July color palettes." Attached were collages, mood boards, and vendors she used to work with. At first, I just replied with polite thanks, then ignored them. But when she called Haley directly, offering to book the cake shop for you, I know the owner, I had to text her to stop. She went silent. Exactly 4 days. On the 5th, Haley went dress shopping with her mom and best friend, only for Colleen to show up at the boutique, telling staff she was the groom's mom here to help. I found out because Haley called me the second she walked out of the fitting room, voice trembling with anger. I arrived immediately and told Colleen straight to her face that she had crossed a line. She cried. My dad called later that night, urging me to be understanding. She only wants to help. I had tried. I had stayed quiet. I'd told Haley she was family. But the more I tried, the deeper Colleen dug in. It wasn't just the wedding. Anything meaningful she tried to wedge her name into. When I was a teenager, she turned my sister's birthday into a family bonding party, filled with team games that made her cry in front of guests. At my college graduation, the invitations were redesigned by Colleen with the phrase, "Colleen's son enters a new chapter." My mom left halfway through the party without a word. Now, our wedding was becoming an extended performance of her personal fantasy to be center stage. 2 weeks ago, we sent out formal invitations. On them, the groom's mother was listed as Jennifer Miller, my biological mom. Colleen lost it. She called me 3 times in one night, leaving a 5-minute voicemail about how humiliating it was to be erased as a mother. I didn't respond. Haley deleted her number. I thought I was used to her grabbing control over every event. Haley wasn't. Nor should she have to be. I wasn't sure where the line was anymore, but I felt myself standing right on it. If she crossed one more inch, no one would pull her back. Not me, not Haley, not anyone. Because beneath every sweet word, every sad-eyed stare, every "I just want to be close to my son," was manipulation so exhausting it bled into every part of our lives. And I was done. Luke isn't my biological child. He's Haley's maternal half-brother, now 4. His birth parents died in a car crash in Iowa when he wasn't even 1. After months of court battles, Haley won custody. We had only been dating for less than 6 months at the time. I didn't hesitate. The boy had Haley's eyes and clung to her hand like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. We've raised him together ever since. He calls Haley Sissy and me by my name, but every weekend morning he still climbs into our bed, nestling between us, babbling about orange monsters fighting Cape dinosaurs in his dreams. Colleen, my stepmother, has never once said his name. In conversations with relatives, she refers to Luke as "that kid" or "the boy." Once, Haley overheard her tell my aunt, "Lincoln's easy to manipulate, but that girl clearly schemed her way into this family." We used to ask my dad to babysit Luke 2 nights a week so Haley could manage her night shifts. The 3rd time, Colleen picked up the call herself, voice like ice. "Not a babysitter, Lincoln. Maybe focus on your own mess instead of someone else's." She hung up before I could respond. My dad never called back, as if it never happened. I told Haley, hoping she'd say to brush it off. She stayed silent, packed Luke's bag, and quietly said, "Let's call Kayla. My siblings won't make us feel guilty for needing help." Kayla, Haley's older sister, lives with her husband and 2 kids in South Spokane. Every visit is like a mini amusement park for Luke, backyard, treehouse, cousins. Since then, Kayla's been our go-to backup whenever work or chaos hits. But even without babysitting access, Colleen didn't quit. One afternoon, we attended my grandfather's birthday. The kindest man, nearly a century old. As we stepped onto the lawn, Colleen stood near the buffet, laughing with guests. Her eyes shifted toward Luke, who was holding my hand. That glare wasn't confusion or discomfort. It was raw contempt, as if he'd stained her linen tablecloth just by existing. Luke hovered around Haley the entire party, refusing to leave her side. Every time I approached the drink table, Colleen would glide over, whispering venom. These events aren't for outsiders. People might get the wrong impression. I gripped my cup so hard it almost cracked. I turned my head slightly, voice steady. "He is family. You might want to start accepting that or you'll find yourself the one left out." She smiled, thin, detached, then walked off toward my dad like nothing had been said. Since that day, no more visits, no babysitting offers. Even after Haley and I announced Luke and our son would both be ring bearers, Colleen sent just one message. "Don't ruin your special day with roles that don't belong." We didn't reply, but I quietly installed new cameras around the house. I once believed she simply disliked Luke. Now I saw it was deeper. Rejection of anything outside her version of the perfect family mold. Luke wasn't a flaw in her vision. He was the hammer shattering her illusion. I stopped hoping she'd change, stopped wishing she'd see the kindness in that little boy. All I could do was place him safely in the arms of those who genuinely loved him, and keep him far away from anyone who saw him as an inconvenience. That night it drizzled lightly. The wet pavement glowed under the headlights. I remembered the tension creeping up my spine as we turned into our street. Haley sat beside me, checking messages from the hospital. I just hoped the boys were asleep. Kayla had to fly to Denver last minute, so reluctantly, I'd called my dad. Told him he could watch Luke and Ezra for a few hours, but only him. Not Colleen, not her. The AC had barely turned off when we heard the screaming. I rushed to the door. The living room was chaos. Toys flung everywhere. Luke sat on the edge of the couch, holding his face, eyes brimming with silent tears. Ezra, barely past 1, shrieked in his high chair. Colleen stood frozen in the center, clutching a stuffed bear like she'd just hurled it. Her face flushed. My dad leaning against the wall like a ghost, staring at the floor. I ran to Luke. His bottom lip was swollen, bleeding, faint nail marks on his chin. He looked at me like someone who'd just been pulled from underwater. I wrapped him in my arms. "What the hell happened here?" I growled, locking eyes with Colleen. She burst out in a shrill voice that needed no microphone. "He said he was going to be a ring bearer. In this family? That's an insult. I won't allow it. Lincoln, you can't let some outsider stand next to you on your wedding day. That boy's not even blood." The last sentence cut through the air like ice water. I gently set Luke aside, stood up, and stepped closer to her. "What did you do to him?" Colleen stayed silent. My dad mumbled something, trying to calm things down. He was just being dramatic. Colleen got a little carried away. She didn't mean to. I turned to face him. "Did you see his split lip? Did you see the blood on his face? You stood there and did nothing." Haley had already picked up Ezra, her hands trembling. When I looked back, she didn't speak, just rested a hand on Luke's shoulder, eyes cold and locked on my father. I called 911. When the police arrived, I showed them the kitchen security camera footage, which caught Luke's scream, followed by the sound of objects crashing, and Colleen yelling unmistakable words. While it didn't capture her striking Luke directly, the injury, his testimony, and the witnesses were clear. Colleen was handcuffed right on her porch. As they took her away, she turned back, thrashing like someone unhinged. I was protecting the family. I'm the only one thinking about the real child in this house. Haley held Luke tightly, her hands still smeared with his blood. My father stood frozen, saying nothing. No apology, no step toward Luke, not even half a gesture. We banned him from our home. The next day, I took Luke to the pediatrician, filed a report with Child Protective Services, and hired a lawyer to press formal charges for child abuse. Thankfully, the injury wasn't deep, no stitches needed, but the image it left in Luke's mind won't fade easily. We emailed our entire wedding guest list, making it absolutely clear that Colleen was no longer allowed to attend any part of the event, and if she showed up, security would be called immediately. I added a single line in the email. We are choosing to protect our children, not uphold the illusion of a happy family. Some didn't respond. A few asked if we could tone it down, but those who truly cared sent messages of support, promising to show up, not abandoning a hurt child just to keep a toxic stepmother happy. That night, I sat on the back porch watching Luke cuddle his stuffed dinosaur, cheerfully telling Ezra that when he got older, the two of them would become superheroes and protect Mom. Haley walked over, placed a cup of tea in my hand, and leaned her head against my shoulder. We're not letting anyone hurt them again. I nodded. No words were needed. This time, our actions were louder than any promise. 3 days after Colleen was cuffed on my porch, Dad called. The call lasted 2 minutes, and he said something I'd never heard before. You've ruined this family. Not, Colleen was wrong. Not, is Luke okay? Not, do you need anything from me? Just blame. Cold and final. No evidence required. I didn't answer. Just hung up, handed the phone to Holly. She looked at me, pressed her lips together like she wanted to ask something, then sighed and went to check on Luke. The following day, I got an email from Aunt Susan, Dad's younger sister. Nearly a full page claiming what I did was excessive, saying it was just a slap in the heat of the moment, that Colleen isn't a bad person, and that family matters should be handled quietly, not dragged through the legal system. She ended with, if you want to keep your wedding peaceful, maybe consider dropping the charges. I didn't reply, just added her to the not invited list. By the weekend, I heard from my cousin Mitchell that my father was calling everyone in the extended family, spinning his own version of events, saying Colleen was humiliated by being treated like an outsider, that I lashed out irrationally, and that I was using a non-biological child to manipulate the family emotionally. As for Luke, according to him, the boy just bumped into a table while playing. No one he called had seen Luke's swollen lip. None had heard the footage capturing his scream and the crash. They only heard a desperate man trying to defend the woman who had been unfairly cast out. By Saturday, I received 7 RSVP cancellations, all from my dad's side. Among them was Uncle Greg, the one who had promised to officiate the ceremony when we started planning last year. His message was a single line. Sorry, Lincoln, I won't get caught in the middle of family bloodlines. We updated the seating chart. Every cancellation, I quietly messaged the venue manager to reduce plates, shift tables. Haley noticed, but didn't ask. She just added a table for her coworkers. The same ones who sent us pizza deliveries all week. Late one night, my sister Morgan texted, Dad hung up on me because I didn't take his side. Don't worry, I've chosen mine. Morgan was never close to Colleen. She once caught her rummaging through her bedroom in 10th grade and got blamed for it. For years afterward, every time Morgan visited, Colleen would check her bag before she left. Maybe Morgan finally ran out of patience, pretending everything was fine. My biological mom, Jennifer, stayed silent. She moved to Florida long ago and rarely got involved in Dad's affairs. But when I called to fill her in, she said, You know who puts people over pride. Don't let yourself be dragged back by those who fear the truth. After that call, I sent a copy of the footage to our lawyer and backed up everything on a separate hard drive. I included photos of the injury and the medical report, in case anyone tried to twist the truth again. Though the seating chart felt emptier, I didn't regret anything. Anyone who chose to protect Colleen's image over a hurt child didn't deserve a seat under the ceremony arch. I had a wooden sign custom-made for the wedding entrance with a quote Haley came up with, Family is where the heart feels safe, not where honor is assumed. A week later, Uncle Greg sent back his RSVP, this time with a note. I saw the footage. I'm sorry I didn't believe you." But we didn't reinstate his name, not out of anger, but because kids like Luke deserve to live in a world where trust doesn't require bruises to be real. We handed all evidence over to our lawyer. The kitchen footage, the photo of Luke's bleeding lip, the pediatric report, even the audio clip of my dad dismissing it as just roughhousing. The lawyer didn't say much, just nodded and began drafting the formal complaint for child abuse. The case was filed with Spokane County Court within 8 days. Colleen received the court summons along with a temporary restraining order. She was prohibited from coming within 300 feet of anyone in my family, including Haley, Luke, and Ezra. Haley took the wedding photo off the fridge and replaced it with a printout of the emergency protection order, not out of spite, but as a reminder that a polished facade means nothing when someone lays hands on a child. I blocked Colleen's number, cut all contact with my father. No more check-in texts, no late-night calls, no cracks left for anyone to sneak through and turn the blame on a kid. Morgan, my younger sister, was the only one maintaining minimal contact. She let me know Dad had moved into a motel near Liberty Lake to avoid familiar faces. The man who once loved telling old stories in the backyard every Saturday now paced alone in a cold room, refusing to admit fault, but occasionally asking Morgan if I had calmed down yet. I didn't reply to the messages she relayed, just told her, "If it's exhausting you, stop. Don't be the speakerphone for someone who doesn't want to hear the truth." Haley stayed quiet about anything coming from my dad's side. She spent more time with Luke, coloring, building blocks, reading bedtime stories. Ezra had just started to talk, and Haley was teaching him to say safe every time he clung to her leg in the kitchen. While the police finalized the file to send to the prosecutor, I hired a private security team to audit our home's locks. The front door was replaced with a fingerprint entry system. Cameras were upgraded to live stream directly to both our phones. I taped Colleen's photo and the protection order to the back door and garage, just in case someone from the extended family accidentally brought her too close. Aunt Susan still tried to reach out via email, this time less angry, but drenched in pity. "She's a woman in pain. Maybe she just lost control. Families shouldn't break apart over one moment of anger." I printed it out, marked every line in red, then tore it to pieces. That moment of anger had left a faint scar on Luke's face, both physically and emotionally. 2 weeks later, the court officially accepted the case. The first hearing took place in a room smaller than I expected, but thick with tension. Colleen arrived alone, no personal attorney, wearing a pale gray dress and so much makeup she looked like wax. When the prosecutor presented the first pieces of evidence, the injury photo and her voice yelling at Luke, she didn't react, just sat upright, hands clenching her purse like she was preserving some image of dignified innocence. My lawyer didn't need to say much. Everything was clear. By the end of the hearing, the judge issued a formal 6-month restraining order with a note allowing extensions if any violations occurred. I signed the document without looking at Colleen. Haley held my hand under the table. Ice cold, but firm. That afternoon, I stood outside Luke's bedroom for a long time. Inside, he was playing stuffed animal doctor with Ezra. Sunlight filtered through the yellow curtains, lighting up his hair like a halo. There wasn't a single mark on that face that deserved to be hidden behind forced forgiveness invented to protect someone's pride. I pulled out my phone and quickly typed a note. Cutting ties isn't hate. It's so we can love without compromise. Haley saw it, said nothing, just kissed me before heading to the kitchen to make dinner. Outside, wind rustled through the mint trellis on the back porch. The scent floated down the hallway, soft but sharp, like a line drawn between those who build a family and those who justify hurting one. Haley once said something in Kayla's kitchen that left me speechless. Colleen doesn't want to be loved, she wants control. I didn't argue, didn't nod, just stood there, holding an unopened soda can, my mind replaying images I'd brushed aside for years, pretending they weren't worth dwelling on. On Morgan's 16th birthday, Colleen turned the backyard movie night she had dreamed of with string lights and pizza into a formal dinner in the big dining room. She forced Morgan into a lacy purple dress and made her cut cake in front of relatives she barely knew. Morgan hid in the bathroom for over 30 minutes, and only came out when I promised to stay by her side. When I was 24, I booked a Christmas trip to Cascade for the whole family. Dad, Colleen, Morgan, and me. Cozy cabin, white snow, simple dinner, board games. Colleen bailed, said she had the flu. 3 hours later, she posted photos at a fancy Italian restaurant with friends, captioned, "Finally, a real Christmas." And Haley's baby shower, I'll never forget. She didn't like fancy parties. She proposed something simple. Sandwiches, juice, a few crafts for the kids, theme, pizza, and Pampers. Clear, straightforward, everyone agreed. Except Colleen. She didn't argue out loud. She made her own plans, emailed the event manager I hired, created a secret group chat with a few relatives, ordered pastel pink decor, rented speakers and satin-covered chairs. It was all kept hidden until the venue coordinator called. A woman named Colleen dropped off 4 boxes of decorations. She said she's coming at 3 p.m. to start setting up for the baby shower. Haley nearly dropped her phone. That evening, Morgan came over and sat in the living room with Haley and her best friend June. No one panicked. They made a plan. At exactly 3 p.m., Colleen showed up at the venue. Detailed setup guide in hand, a change of outfit, and her laptop ready to play a slideshow titled Haley's Journey to Motherhood, one Haley herself had never seen. She finished setting up in 90 minutes, then left to freshen up. That's when Morgan moved. She went with June, called in 2 more friends. In 40 minutes, they tore down the pink drapes, took down every balloon, replaced the tablecloths, and brought in pizza and drinks through the back entrance. By 5:30, the princess party was completely erased. Colleen returned at 6 p.m., stepping into the hall just as June was face-painting kids with safe markers. She froze. The pizza boxes were open. On the wall, a crooked banner read, "Pizza Party for Baby E." At her feet, Ezra giggled from his stroller as Luke handed him a mushroom-shaped rattle. Colleen asked in a barely audible whisper, "Who let you do this?" Morgan stood tall. "Haley did. I just helped make sure she wasn't erased from her own party." Colleen didn't argue. She backed up, pulled out her phone, turned around, and left without a word. None of the guests asked why the famously involved stepmother wasn't around for the rest of the event. After the shower, Haley hugged me, her hands still dusted with flour. I used to think I was overreacting. Now I think I was too forgiving. I didn't reply, just placed a hand on her back, felt her breath slow, and glanced at Luke resting his head on a stuffed bear. There were things I'd ignored, justified, covered with excuses. But since that day, it was as if every old memory had been pulled out from a musty basement and laid bare. Colleen couldn't ruin the baby shower, but she had left fingerprints on every significant event Morgan and I had ever lived through. Every time we tried to steer our lives forward, she tried to wrestle back the wheel, until her car was stopped by the police in front of my house. That was the only time the steering wheel slipped from her hands, and I had no intention of returning it. Haley walked down the aisle in the golden glow of sunset, arm in arm with her older brother, the one who stepped in for their late father. No one even breathed loudly. The entire garden fell into a hush, with only soft acoustic guitar echoing from the far left corner. Luke stood beside Ezra, both dressed in tiny tuxedos, each holding a small box with ribbon. Luke looked so serious it nearly made me laugh. He held Ezra's hand and carefully guided him across the grass, scattered with white petals. That moment hit something deep in my chest, not because of the ceremony's formality, but because after everything, we were still standing here, surrounded by people who truly loved each other. Security had been set from the outer perimeter. They carried printed guest lists with photos I personally provided. Colleen didn't show up. No one accidentally wandered in. As for my dad, no appearance, no text, not a single sign. The name once printed on a reception seat tag was removed days before the wedding. The reception afterward wasn't flashy. We held a cozy dinner, warm yellow lights, and live music from Haley's friends. My mom sat at the table with Morgan, occasionally leaning in to feed Ezra cake with a tiny wooden spoon. She never brought up the past, only raised her glass with a line that made everyone clap. "You didn't just choose the right person, you chose the right reason to love." Morgan winked at me during my speech. She was the only one who knew I nearly called off the wedding when everything fell apart. But looking at Luke, at Haley, at Ezra's tiny hand tugging my shirt collar during a thunder-filled dream, I realized no storm is worth more than this peace. We didn't go on a honeymoon right away. Ezra was still little, Luke was about to start preschool, and Haley had back-to-back hospital shifts. We spent 3 days at a small cabin near Lake Coeur d'Alene, catching up on sleep, eating handmade pizza, and watching our wedding photos on a mini projector in the living room. On the second night, I got a text from Dad. Just 6 words, wishing you happiness, despite everything. No apology, no question about the kids, no mention of Colleen. I didn't reply, didn't delete it, just quietly added his number to the block list. Haley didn't ask. She seemed to have let go of any expectations for a man who once told me at 17, "You're grown now, learn to endure." I wasn't enduring anymore. I started therapy the week after the wedding. Morgan recommended it. Dr. Harper, in his 50s, quiet but sharp, told me, "People often confuse loyalty with fear of loss." That sentence echoed through my head the entire first session. I didn't say everything, didn't need to, just described the dream that kept recurring. Me, standing between 2 burning houses, unable to decide who to save first. One held Luke, the other, my father. The fire kept rising. I couldn't move. Haley slept more deeply now, no more midnight sobs. She focused on mentoring new nurses and started painting again, something she'd abandoned after taking custody of Luke. I hung her first finished piece in the living room, between our wedding photo and a picture of the family in a fall meadow. Luke still asked about Grandpa sometimes. When he did, I didn't dodge. I just said, "Some people don't know how to be good grown-ups, but that's okay, because you've got Mom, Dad, and Ezra, and that's enough." He nodded, unbothered. He's learning to read now, loves books about dinosaurs and excavators. Ezra only knows a few words, but he runs straight into Haley's arms when he's tired. One afternoon, as the two of them were drawing on the back porch, Haley looked at me from the kitchen. Her smile wasn't wide, just enough to let me know the storms didn't vanish, but they no longer defined our life. Maybe tomorrow would be tiring again. Maybe the old memories would return. But I had something Colleen could never distort, a family built on truth, not performance. I was wiping the dinner table when my phone buzzed. The screen showed Ethan, my half-brother, the one who once swore he wouldn't come to the wedding because Mom didn't deserve to be treated like a villain. His message was shockingly short. "Need to talk, just you and me, if you're okay with it." I stared at the text for a few seconds, feeling nothing. Maybe because too much had already happened, or maybe because I no longer expected anything from that side. Still, my fingers typed back. Saturday afternoon, Garland Street Cafe. Ethan showed up on time, gray button down, worn khakis, looking nothing like the guy who used to leave boardrooms in pressed suits. He stood at the door, scanned the cafe, spotted me near the window. No wave. Just walked over, pulled out a chair, and sat. Neither of us spoke for almost a minute. Then he said, voice lower than before, "I'm sorry." I didn't react, just set my coffee down and waited. "I argued with Mom," Ethan said, eyes on his hands, fingers laced. "She still says Luke's a threat. That Jane brainwashed you." I couldn't take it anymore, and I stayed silent. Didn't need to push. He went on, almost in a rush. I'd believed her for too long. When I asked about the cameras, the doctor's report, the stuff I saw online, she didn't deny anything. Just said, kids exaggerate, and that people are out to ruin her. Then she yelled at me. Called me a traitor. Like, just asking meant I was the enemy. He looked up, exhausted. I don't think Mom has ever truly loved anyone, not even us. That one hit hard. I swallowed, hand resting on the edge of the table. I used to hope you'd be the one who understood. I didn't. I was blind. I defended her over my ex-wife. Lost them both. But I don't want to lose this family too. We sat in silence. Outside, sunlight fell through the bougainvillea. casting gold across his hair. I nodded. Not forgiveness. Just a beginning. The following week, Ethan invited me to lunch, then coffee with Haley, then dinner at our place, bringing a robot building kit for Luke. Ezra sat in Haley's lap watching him curiously. But Luke? Luke didn't hesitate. He showed off his drawings, told stories, pulled Ethan into his imaginary world like Colleen had never existed. Ethan didn't mention her again. No excuses. No explanations. Just played with the kids, asked Haley about work, showed me old travel photos, said he nearly bought land near us once, but changed his mind, thinking, who would I be close to? A month later, he was in the passenger seat as I drove Luke to the playground. With the window cracked open, wind blowing in, he asked quietly, if Mom dies, would you go to the funeral? I paused, then shook my head. Not out of anger, just nothing left to bury. He nodded, no protest. In December, we hosted a small party at Kayla's. Haley baked, Morgan did decorations, Ethan brought wine. Luke wore a sweater with a dinosaur and glasses, running around and tugging Ethan's hand. Can you make a dancing robot? Ethan laughed, bent down and waddled around like a robot to music. Luke squealed. Ezra clapped from Haley's arms. Haley looked at me from across the room, calm in her eyes. She could see it too. Some cracks can't be patched, but you can build new walls on the steadier ground that's left. That night, as Ethan left, he turned back. Thanks for opening the door, even just a crack. I didn't answer, just opened it a little wider, enough for the hallway light to guide someone who took the wrong path, but chose the right one back. Despite deep wounds from manipulation and abuse, Lincoln chose to protect his family by cutting off the toxic past. Through unwavering love and clear boundaries, he not only preserved his present joy, but also rebuilt a broken bond with his half-brother. His story proves healing begins not when others change, but when we choose to protect what truly matters. What do you think of Lincoln's decision and how he stood up for his family? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow our channel for more powerful, heartfelt stories about love, courage, and what it means to protect your own.